Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at quadratic inequality in one variable. By taking this tutorial, I'm assuming you're already used to the concept of inequality and also the concept of quadratic expression. So if you're not used to that, feel free to check any of our tutorials under quadratic equation and also inequality. So in this tutorial, we shall attempt to find the solution to the set of quadratic inequality of the form ax squared plus bx plus c greater than or equal to 0, or ax squared plus bx plus c less than or equal to 0. So from these two expressions, we can see this, which represents the general form of quadratic equation, and also the positive greater than or equal to or less than or equal to that represents inequality. So we shall be looking at three different methods that we can use to solve this form of equation. In the previous part, we looked at how to solve quadratic inequality in one variable using parabola method. And lastly, in this part, we are going to be looking at the third method, method 3. And in this method, we are going to be looking at the use of line sign chart. Oh, that's supposed to be C. So we'll be looking at using sign charts. So let's get straight in the tutorial. So you have seen different methods of solving quadratic inequality in one variable. For this particular method, we have to consider a sign chart, and we analyze using different charts to find the solution to our quadratic inequality. So let me start doing this by looking at an example. So the first example here is to solve the quadratic inequality x squared plus 4x minus 5 greater than 0. So there are a few things that we need to take a look at while approaching it from the third method. So we have to look at the sign that our quadratic inequality has. In this case, it's positive. It's greater than, sorry. So in this case, it's greater than. So we're going to be using this greater than later while solving this particular example. So the next thing we have to do is to factorize our quadratic expression. So how do we factorize this? We are going to solve this using factorization method, and then we are going to have this to be x minus 1 and x plus 5 equal to 0 if you are factorizing this. So after that, we draw a sign chart. So how do we go about drawing our sign chart, and how do we go about solving it using a sign chart? So let me start drawing a sign chart here. So don't forget, in the case of parabola method, we drew a parabola to solve our quadratic inequality, but in this case, as I mentioned, we're going to be drawing a sign chart. So I have this, and I have 3 more columns, and lastly this. So on the first column, we are going to have our factors. So the first factor we have here is x minus 1. We also have x plus 5, and we have our y, which is simply x minus 1 and x plus 5. So if you find the roots of this quadratic expression, we're going to have x to be equal to 1 or x equal to negative 5. So this is like a conversion. It will always be like this in this case. So we're going to have x less than the smallest, which is x less than negative 5. I'm going to have negative 5 less than x less than the biggest, which is less than 1. And lastly, you have x greater than 1. So just take note, this is like the convention. So x less than the smallest less than x less than 1, and lastly s greater than the biggest. So we now pick a value that satisfies each of these ranges. So if you have x less than negative 5, we can pick negative 6, satisfies this. So we can pick minus 5 less than x less than 1. We can pick a value that satisfies this. So here we can pick negative 1, and then we can pick 2. So the next thing we have to do is to substitute these values into these factors. If you have negative 6, substituting it into this factor, we have negative 6 minus 1. So we have a negative answer, which is negative 7. We simply put negative here. So again, if you substitute negative 1, we have negative 2. So we simply put negative here. And if I substitute 2 minus 1, that's positive 1. So I have positive here. So again, we substitute it to the next factor. So negative 6 plus 5, this is going to be negative 1. So I put negative here. So putting negative 1 there, I'm going to have negative 1 plus 5, that is positive. And lastly, putting 2, I'm going to have 7, that is also positive. So what I need to do is to take the product of the signs. So negative times negative, I'm going to have this to be positive. So negative times positive, this is negative. And positive times positive, this is positive. Positive times positive, that is positive. So I'll now go back to my quadratic inequality and look at the signs that is attached to it. In this case, which is greater than. So whenever you have greater than, we have to consider positive. So if you have greater than, so we consider positive. And if you have less than, we consider negative. So in this case, I simply look for the products that are positive. So I have this and I have this to be positive. So therefore, I can have that the solution to the quadratic inequality is the ranges that I have here, which are simply x less than negative 5 or s greater than 1 to be the solution to the quadratic inequality. And this is how we can approach solving quadratic inequality using sign chart. So take note of two things: the sign you have attached to the quadratic inequality and the answer that you have here. So don't forget, if you have positive attached, you are going to pick all the positive values, and if you have negative attached, you pick all the, if you have less than attached, you pick all the negative values. So let's look at another example. We have a similar example too in number 2, but in this case we are going to be looking at less than, and we have to find the solution to the inequality x squared minus 3x minus 10 less than 0. If you recall from the last example, we looked at a case where we have greater than and we selected positive in our sign chart. So, but in this case we have less than. It simply means that we are going to be selecting negative after constructing our sign chart. So the first thing we have to do also is to find the roots of this equation after factorizing it. So to factorize, we are going to have this to be x plus 2 and x minus 5 equal to 0, and we have the roots to be x equal to negative 2 and x equal to 5. So having this as the root of the quadratic equation, so we're going to have our sign chart. Again, we have 4 columns. We have this and 3 more. So we have all our factors here. The first factor we have here is x plus 2. So we simply bring it here, x plus 2, and here also x minus 5. And then we have our y, which is simply the product of the two factors, x plus 2 and x minus 5. So again, as I mentioned in the last example, that this follows the same convention. We are going to have x less than the smallest, which is negative 2. Now we have negative 2 less than x less than 5. And then we have x greater than 5. So this is the convention whenever we are drawing the sign chart. So you can pick any value that satisfies this range. So x less than negative 2, you can pick negative 3. And then you can pick 1, and then you can pick 6. So if you substitute negative 3 into this, we have negative 3 plus 2, that is going to be negative answer. And also if you substitute 1 a 1 plus 2, that's going to be 3, that's positive. And if you substitute 6, that's going to be positive also. So if you substitute negative 3, we have negative 3 minus 5, that's going to be negative 8. If you substitute 1 minus 5, that is negative 4. And putting 6, we have positive. So you simply find the product of these two signs. So we have positive here, we have negative, and we have positive over here. So because we have the sign less than a, so we have that whenever we have less than, we are going to be selecting negative. And then we only have a single occurrence of negative which satisfies this particular range. So we have that the solution to our quadratic inequality is simply this range, negative 2. That's a very long negative. So negative 2 less than x less than 5. And there we have the solution to the quadratic inequality. So that's that on how we can find the solution to quadratic inequality using the third method. If you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, and share to your friends that are going to need it. So before you go, don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any question, feel free to post them in the comment section below. Thank you.